Echad Noel Lahai Below Esaish Tishtach Meir Fush Nem Shemaim Fuas Nefesh Fuas Aguf Lecholim Yichim Chol Shmuel Ben Esther Emmanuel Ben Sipor Fega Nachmari Ben Dina Yehudis Mishlom David Ben Alta Hendel Rafael Ben Mitzvah Ben Gittel Yeshua Aryeh Leib Ben Masha Rafael Tzilipa Ben Esther Rechel Shmuel Yaakov Ben Rachel Shlom Yosef Ben Fega Mendel Ben Chaya Ephraim Ben Miriam Rus Yehuda Moshe Ben Esther Malka Gittel Bas Yuta Shendel Simon Bas Getzel Sarah Rachama Bas Shlam Eschava and Shimshi Purim Bas Chitoin B'Sor Shacha Yisrael Sher Hamalos Mirakim Kersich Adonai Adonai Shema B'Kali Tihiyena Znachak Ashuva Is the Kol Tafnunai Imavonos Tishmaya Adonai Mi Amod Ki Imcha Aslicha Leman Tivarei Kivisi Adonai Kivisa Nafshi V'Lidroi Chalti Nafshi Adonai Mishamim Laboker Shamim Laboker Yechel Yisrael Adonai Ki Im Adonai Chesed Rabbi Meifidos V'Hu Yiftes Yisrael Mikol Avayinai Sav the foolish time with everyone. Okay, we're on Lamed Hey Amid Beis. We began the sugya of matzah. In other words, what can you go ahead and make matzah from? We said you can make matzah from the 5 grains: skita, so'ira, kusmin, shifan, and shabal shual. And you cannot make it from dochen and ores, which would mean millet or rice, because as we said, they rise as a result of sirchon, of spoilage, rather than fermentation. And we went through a whole list of things that you could. You go from the Mai and Hegdish that wasn't played correctly, and Hegdish you didn't take off Chaimish for, and the Trumas if you took off the Maisa Rishon before the Trumas Maisa, before the Kri. We went through a whole bunch. Now we have a new question. We get into something very, very, very interesting. Okay, it says that we're on Lamed Hey Amid Beis. And the last line before it gets wide in the old Vilna Shas, Tan Rabbana. Yachol yoytza adam yidei chabasai b'tevel shaloi nitaken. Tevel is untithed produce. You didn't take off Shumus Amaisa. You could be yoytza the yochiev of matzah with that. Fred the Gemara kol tevel nami hola nitaken. All tevel also is not mitaken. So what do you mean tevel shaloi nitaken? Tevel by nature is not mitaken. Tevel by nature is not, you didn't separate anything from. You could be yoisa with tevel that was not totally tithed. What does that mean? You separated the truma gedayla, which goes to the kohen, but you didn't take off the trumas maisa from the maisa rishon. Or maisa rishon, you took off the maisa rishon, but in the first, second, 4th and 5th years of the Shemitah cycle, you didn't take off the Maisa Sheni, which has to be eaten in Yerushalayim. And even if you took off everything, if you took off Truma Gedayla, Maisa Rishon, and in the 3rd and 6th year of the Shemitah cycle, you did not take off Maisa Ani, which doesn't have Kedusha, right? Minayin, how do you know that what? How do you know that you could be Yossi Yechiv? Talmud Laima, Lo Soichel of Chametz, Misha Sur Mishum Bal Teichel of Chametz, Yatzezeh Shein Sur Mishum Bal Teichel of Chametz. So, in other words, a person cannot be Yaitza. You cannot be Yaitza Yechiv over here. Because in addition to the Chiv of, you have a matzah, 1 second. Matzah has to be from something that can become, that the Issus Chametz. You would exclude this case where the Isser is Mishum, is not Mishum that you can't eat Chametz. The Isser is Mishum, you can't eat Tevel. And the Isser is because you can't eat Tevel. Rashi says, Misha Asur Mishum Bal Teichel Chametz, Ata Yotze Bo Yidei Matzah, B'Pesach Imaso Matzah. But over here, since the Chiev is not Chametz, the Chiev is Tevel, you would not be Yaitza. Fred Gemara Kasha, Amar Rav Sheshet, El Mishum Bal Teichel Tevel. Ve'isur the Chametz Leichin Azla. Why can't you be Yaitza? Where did the Isur of Chametz go to? In other words, I could have 2 Isurim over here. One you didn't take off all the meiser, and two, it's chametz. So why can't I be yaitza with it? You still have the isser of chametz. Says the Gemara, no, you don't have an isser of chametz. Rav Sheshes Hamani, who's the Tana? The Tana of this brisa is Rav Shimon. The Tana of this brisa is Rav Shimon Damar, Ein Issa Chalal Issa. An Issa can't be Chalal Issa. The Tanya. Rav Shimon Aimer. Rav Shimon says, Ha'oichel nevela b'yom kippurim pater. Now you're eating on Yom Kippur is a chi of kares. So, however, if you eat nevela that has an Isser of a lav before, you would be the Isser of Yom Kippur would not be chal. The Isser of Yom Kippur won't be chal because there was an Isser of nevela there before. Ravina Amar Afilu Tema Rabbanon Mishe Surim Mishum Bal Toichel. Let's hold off on this in a second. Let me explain. Let me speak about Isser Chalal Isser a little more. If you have a pre-existing Isser, there's a machloikis in Shas between Rav Shimon and Tanakama and the Chachamim whether Isser Chalal Isser. Meaning, I have a pre-existing Isser. Can a new Isser come upon it? So over here we have an Isser of Tevel. It was untied. Now you want to take an Isser of Chametz and it should fall in it. Ain't Isser Chalal Isser. The Isser of Chametz cannot fall on the Isser of Tevel because it already is there. Yom Kippur, he brings the case of Nevela. Here's you have Issa Nevela, and it's going to be Yom Kippur. And nonetheless, since the Issa Nevela is there, the Issa ain't Issa Chal Issa. Now there is two other Shas Inyonim in Issa Chal Issa. An Issa Kolel and an Issa Moisef. An Issa Kolel means all other food now in the world is becoming Issa because of Yom Kippur. Let's be kola. Let's incorporate that isser on the vela. In other words, kosher food. You have geshachten of food on Yom Kippur is asa. So why do I say since geshachten of food becomes asa, let's be kola. Let's go ahead and incorporate and include even food that you had a pre-existing isser like nevela. Kemash belon that Rav Shimon afilu isser kola does not hold of. We have a concept of an Issa Moisef, where Nevela was an Issa of what? A lav. Yom Kippur is an Issa Karis. It's a Mosif, a more severe Issa. Nonetheless, Rav Shimon says, no, ain't Issa Chalal Issa. Afilu Issa Kolel, incorporating more, Afilu Issa Mosef, a greater punishment. Memela, you cannot make, you can't be Yaitza, your Chiev of Tevel. Yochel, I think Yotzad and Tevel, Tevel. So I think you're not Yotzad. Tanabana Yochel, I might think Yotzad Midachavasa Tevel, so you talk about Tevel now. Hang on one second, guys. I got to look at one thing. I'm missing something. Okay, so why are we saying since the Isser over here is not an Isser of Chametz, it's an Isser of Tevel. Memelu, you can't be yoitza matzah. Matzah has to be, as we said yesterday, that relationship between chametz and matzah. It has to be the isser is machmas the fact that that it can become chametz. That's why you yoitza matzah. Over here, there's no chametz issue whatsoever because of Rav Shimon. Ein issa chalal issa. So what's the only issue? Tevel. If the isser is as tevel, it can't become matzah. That's the first teretz. A second teretz, Lamed Vav Amid Aleph, a second teretz. Ravina Amar, Afilu Temer Rabbanon, Mishe Yisura Mishum Bal Toichel Chametz Bilvad, Yotzezeh She'eni Yisura Mishum Bal Toichel Chametz Bilvad, Alaf Mishum Bal Toichel Tevel. In other words, even according to Mani Omer, Issa Chalal Issa, you should not be Yaitza. Why? Because the only Issa that can be is Chametz. There can't be any other. If there's an other Issa, then you won't be able to go ahead and eat it for matzah. So we have two terutzim. The first one of Shimon, Ein Issa Chalal Issa, that's no Issa Chametz at all. And therefore the only Issa is Tevel, so it won't work. A second teretz, no. We Issa Chalal Issa. And if you eat this, you'll be over in two lavim. You'll be over on Chametz and you'll be over in Tevel. But the din of matzah has to be the only game in town can be Chametz. No other game in town. You can't have Tevel. Memela, it doesn't work. Fred the Gemara, Miti Bilvad Ksiv, never said anything about Bilvad only. El Mechavarta, it's clear to Rav Sheshes that this price goes in according to Rav Shimon, that Ein is a Chalalissa, and this of Chometz is not Chal, whether it's a Koilel, whether it's a Moisif, it's not Chal on the Tevel. Tanarbanan, Yachal, I might think, Yachal Yoitza Adam Yidei Chavasa b'Maisa Sheni b'Yushalayim. We know in the first year, the second year, the third, the fourth year, the fifth year, you bring Maisa Sheni to Yerushalayim, right? You carry it up and you eat it there. I might think so. You go ahead, bring it up, take the flour of Maisa Sheni, that's Kedushas Maisa Sheni, and make matzah from it. I might think you could do that. You can't. Talmud Loimer, it says lechem oni, mashenechal be'aninos. And the play on words is only that the aleph, the ayin will become an aleph. Aninus is a person's state until the kfura of one of the kfarim they have to, kroivim, the relatives they have to misavel over. And there is a halacha of certain things you can't eat be'aninus, such as maisa. So therefore, when it says lechem oni, it has to be some lechem that I could eat be'aninus. Since I can't eat maisa sheni be'aninus, I can't use it for matzah. Right? Shenemar. This would exclude Maisa Sheni, She'ena Ba'aninis, which cannot be eaten be'aninos. It can't be eaten when you're in a state of being an onein. Ela b'simcha. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili learns Maisa Sheni you cannot make matzah from because of the din of aninos. Rabbi Akiva says matzahs riba. It says in the Torah matzahs we go ahead and we include Maisa Sheni. Says Rabbi Akiva, guys, keep this in mind. It's going to come into play on the Amid base. You, in fact, can make what? You can make matzah from Maisa Sheni. So what does Rabbi Akiva use for the exclusion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili? What does he do with the limit of lechem oni? Prat le'isa shenilusha biyayin v'shemen udvash. Lechem oni means a poor man's bread. Bread, flour, and water. Not flour that is kneaded with wine, oil, or honey. You can't be Yotzi Yechi of matzah with that. Now, my time with Rabbi Akiva, what's the reason for Rabbi Akiva that he says that you would be Yotza with Maisa Sheni? Miksiv lechem oni, ani ksiv. It doesn't say lechem oni about aninos. It just says lechem oni. It's nothing to do with aninos, and therefore, if it's on poor man's bread, Maisa Sheni would work. Rabbi Yossi Aglili mikarin and ani. We don't read it as lechem ani. We read them as lechem oni. So we don't go after the Masorah the way it's written. We go pronounced. We go the way it's pronounced. We don't go the way it's written. We go the way it's pronounced. It's pronounced as oni, such as aninos, and therefore what? You can't eat Matzah Sheni. Rabbi Akiva, Hayde Karina Be Oni. Why do they call it? In other words, apparently, if you'd ask me outside, Rabbi Yossi Aglili appears to be more correct. If you're going to call it oni, it's mashma aninos. So you should not be able to use Maisa Sheni. That has to be in besimcha. You should be able to use it for matzah. And so what does Rabbi Akiva do with the pronunciation of oni? Kiddush Shmuel, the din of Shmuel, Dama Shmuel, lechem oni, lechem sha'onim alav devarim harbe. The lechem that we say many things on it, guys. We're going meresa halal on the matzahs. We go ahead and we say the haggadah on the matzahs. We know that the matzahs are much more than just poor man's bread. They're koiveya the suda. We have it in front of you. You say the Haggadah. You go ahead and you're going mahalal on it, and that's lechem oni from the lashon of onin, not the lashon of aninus, but the lashon with an ayin of onin that we say. We speak out dvarim harbe. Now, going back over now, so we have machloikis tanoim whether you can use Maisa Sheni. Rabbi Akiva says yes. Rabbi Yossi says not. Rabbi Akiva in the dialogue said, you can't be Yotze with matzah that had been kneaded with wine, shemen, or honey. So let's see. We'll get into that a little bit. Guys, so far so good, yeah? We're good. We're good? Again, what do we see tonight? Tevel, you can't be Yotze. Why? Because there's an issa besides chametz. Right? That's why you can't be Yotze with Tevel. Even the Tevel was shade, even was Maisa honey wasn't taken off. You still can't be Yotze. We have machlokes tanoim whether you can be Yotze with Maisa Sheni. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says you cannot, and Rabbi Akiva says you could, and their whole drush is predicated upon the word oni. According to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, oni is such as aninos, Therefore, Ma'aser Sheni, which can't be eaten baninas, lechem oni, you can't use matzah. Rabbi Akiva says lechem oni is the one shon maharbe, and that's what he uses the oni for. They say other things on it, and he says lechem oni goes after the way it's written, which is ani, poor man's bread, and therefore you can't be yaitz with a matzah that had been kneaded with rich man's bread, such as wine, oil, and honey. Now we're going to get into this oil and honey thing. Says the Gemara. Does Rabbi Akiva hold that dough that had been kneaded with shem and yain v'dash not? I'll show you yes. Ein loshin, you can't knead isa b'pesach b'yain v'shem v'dvash v'im losh, and if you do need it, Rabbi Gamliel loimet tisaref miyad. Go ahead and right away burn it because it's going to become chametz right away. We had a kashi. If you remember yesterday's daf, guys, look at the top line. The top line of yesterday's daf, that may peris ein machmitzin. We said fruit juice does not, and here we're saying you do. So Rashi points out it means over here it'll become chametz nuksha. Chametz nuksha is chametz but not chametz. In other words, you can't eat it, but it's not it's a karis like the other chametz. So we're worried that it's going to quickly, faster than a speeding bullet, go ahead and become this chametz like this, and therefore what? It'll become this chametz nuksha, and therefore we can't go ahead and eat it. That's where we become leal. The chacham say yoichel. The chacham say go ahead and eat it right away. In other words, it's possible to watch it from what for not becoming chametz. You could do it. V'amar Rabbi Akiva shafti hoysa etzel Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yeshua. I spent the Shabbos etzel Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkinis and Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. V'lashti lehem isa b'yayin b'shem l'dvash, and I needed for them isa dough with yayin b'shem l'dvash. This is Rabbi Akiva who said above what you cannot. This is Rabbi Akiva said above you cannot. Here he's testifying that in front of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua he did. V'layomali David didn't say anything to me. Good. The afal now. The next words now. The kasha, you got the kasha, guys. Stop right here. We have a kasha. What's our kasha? Rabbi Akiva said above, you cannot go ahead and knead with yayin, shem, and dvash. And here he's saying you could. Okay? That's the kasha. Now there's this part Rabbi Akiva did not say. The afal pishein loshin, even if you cannot, according to the chachamim, knead it, mekatfin boy, you can go ahead and baste it. In other words, you could take the matzah and not knead it, but baste it, coat it on top. Aslan Tanakama. If you can't knead it, you can't go ahead and baste it. If you can't baste it, you can knead with it. The Shavin, they agree. Shein Lashon es Isa. The Pshairin, everyone agrees you can't go ahead and knead water with lukewarm, flour with lukewarm water. Bottom line is kasha Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Akiva. Like kasha, Habi Yom Tevishin. When the Rabbi Akiva said that you can't go ahead and knead with yayin, shem, and dvash, that's to be yoytz of the mitzvah of the erev toichlu matzis. On the first night of Pesach, there's the mitzvah of matzah. That's your matzah deraisa. Guys, one shot deal. Pesach. The first seder, that's it. It's one and done. Second seder ready is the rabbanon. The rest of Pesach, most people except the Gora holds it's a reshus to eat matzah. The erev toichlu matzis is that when you get to mitzi matzah, that's your one shot to do it. And that can't be done with yayin, shem, and the vash. That's what Rabbi Akiva meant. When Rabbi Akiva reported that he went ahead and kneaded flour with yayin, shem, and the vash in front of Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer, that was the rest of Yontif. Right. Habi Yontif Sheni. That was the rest of Yontif. Okay, very good. The first diet, do not go ahead and knead it with me in milk. You can go ahead and make me milk matzah. Says the word Tanya in Lashon Esa Isa b'cholav v'mlosh kol hapasa sura. We know you're not supposed to make milk bread because you may come to eat it with meat. V'feish hergel aveira, then you may come to eat it with meat. Elahachi kamar yuma kamalei talushali b'duvsha. Don't go ahead in the first night and go ahead and knead it with honey. You can go ahead and make it with honey. So that's the first teretz to answer the stira in Rabbi Akiva. Why Rabbi Akiva says you can't, and then he said you could, then he did. We're speaking about the first night of Pesach and the rest of Pesach. Taka speaking not about this case that Rabbi Yeshua reported that he told his son to go ahead and make milk matzah and want to say it was honey matzah. No, you're talking about milk matzah. You had a kasha, you don't make milk matzah because you make have to eat it with meat. Kedam ravina, ke'ein turish shari. If you're going to keep it around the amount of time, the eye of an axe. The eye of an axe is a very short period of time. So if you're going to keep the needed milk matzah around a short period of time, hachanami kein tura, he kept it around along a short period of time, like the analogy made to the eye of an axe. Okay?
So they're not worried anything about chametz or anything like that, of adding additional ingredients to the mixture? I thought that's why we don't mix anything in with the dough, is because we're worried about the chemical reaction to make it chametz.
Again, according to this opinion, according to one opinion, this chametz nuksha. According to the other opinion, they're not. These ones argue. They said it's shaykh to do shmira. It's shaykh to do shmira. Rashi brings chacham moimim. If you look at Rashi on the right side of the page, Yehuda, go up to chacham moimim. You have it. Okay. The kasavi efshel is shaimra. It's possible to watch it. It doesn't become chametz. When you bake it, doesn't come chametz. See that? This is going according to that shita. Guys, good so far. Very nice Gemara, right? Very, very nice Gemara. Okay. V'shavin she'in loshin esa isa b'poishrin. In the brayso that we just mentioned, that machloikus between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda regarding kneading dough with honey and oil and wine, they both agree you should not go ahead and do it with poishrin. Okay, let me guys, for the oncoming Gemara, just a little background. There's a carbon called the carbon mincha, and there are basically five types. There's a type that you, before every carbon mincha has four things it needs. You got to put it in the klishares. You have to do kamitza. That means you take your right hand and you put it in the flour and you go like this, and whatever fits in these three fingers is called a kaimitz. You take that kaimitz, you put it in a kli. You take the kli, you put it over, bring it to the mizbeach, and then you burn the kaimitz. That the analogy is taking the kaimitz as the shchita, putting it in the kli as the kabbalah, receiving, bringing it over to the mizbeach is synonymous, and burning it is the same as rika. So in other words, the four avodas of the mincha parallel the four avodas adam by a carbon of dam. In the mincha there are five basic types. The minchas that we're going to discuss is one of three. It's called the minchas marcheshes, that's one. A minchas machabas, that's two, and a minchas afe sano, that's three. Those are the three. And the machabas is a thin pan, and the marcheshes is a deep pan. You have to go ahead and process this and make it before the kamitza. That's when you're doing the kamitza, you're doing kamitza on a processed product already, not pure, raw flour. Okay. The kneading up to the point where you're going to go ahead and put it in the kli and put oil and stuff on it can be done by a non-kohen. Okay, so let's see. With that in mind, let's see what we got. V'shavin shein loshin esa isa b'poishrin. They agree you can't go ahead on and bake, and you can't knead isa with poishrin, which is what, lukewarm water. Ma'ishnami menachis. Why is matzah different than menachis? Ditnan kol menachis nilushin b'poishrin. All menachis can be kneaded with lukewarm water. Umishamron shelo yachmitzu, and you'll watch that they don't become chametz. So why do we allow it by menachos and we not allow it by matzah? And for the Gemara, im amru b'zrizim, yamru b'shein zrizim. Who's making the mincha? It's the kahanim. Kahanim's zrizim hang. The kahanim are a different level. Who's making the matzah? A regular Jew. So by the kahanim, there was zrizim. They'll be very careful not to fool around with lukewarm water, and therefore we're not worried it's going to come chametz. Because again, there's only two things that can be chametz on mizbeach. The shtei lechem on Shavuos, and one of the four of the carbon taida. But any other mincha, there's no mincha, the guys, that comes from what? From chametz. So you're going to be very, very careful. You're going to watch this very carefully. So the kahanim has reason they could watch it. Therefore, we let them use lukewarm water, which again will make it rise better. Conversely, in the Medina making matzah, we will not allow it. Ihachi, if you're telling me that the Kanama Zrizim milsis nami lasis, right? You should allow them to go ahead and soak it beforehand. Allama Rabbi Zera, and this Rabbi Zera said, Amar Rabba in the name of Rabba. This is Rabbi Zera said in the name of Rabba. By Yirmiyah Amar Shmuel, Chitin Shal Menachis ain't license in Isa. The Chitim of Menachis, we didn't go ahead and soak to take off the brand. We didn't soak to take off the brand, right? That's the reason. Because Lisha Bizrizim Isa, Lisisa Lesa Bizrizim. Lisha, the kneading process, that was done by the Kahanim. Lisisa, but the flour that was brought, that was done by non-Kahanim. So if we're going to allow soaking, we're worried we're going to allow soaking outside the Beis HaMikdash, it's going to become chametz before they bring it in. So therefore, we won't allow Lisisa. Lisisa is done by the non-Kohen. Memela, it's a problem because we don't say there's reason. One second. You're telling me that it was needed by Kahanim? There's reason. Vaksiv, it says Vayitzak Allah Shemen. You should go ahead and put on it Shemen. Via Ela Kohen. And you bring it to the Kohen. Guys, in the process, again, the Kohen, from the time of the Kamitza, is done by the Kohen. If this was a processed carbon like the Minchas Afesan or Macheshes, right? These karbanis, they had to be processed beforehand, these flours. And then it was brought to the Kohen. So in other words, there was a process involved, including kneading it, before it got to the Kohen. So how can you tell me that kneading with poishrin was permitted? Because the Kahana's reason, wait a second, the kneading can be done even by a non-Kohen. And you're telling me a non-Kohen is not so diligent. So why did you allow to go ahead and use poishrin to do the carbon? On that, the Gemara answers, 1 second, what are you talking about? Right? The yitzika, the pouring of it, and the belila, and the mixing of it, so we have a kasha. It says, no, Lisha Nehidim is reason lessa. Good, they weren't done by his reason. They were done by non-Kahanim. But B'makam's reason, Misa. They weren't done in Brooklyn and brought to Yerushalayim. They weren't even done in Yerushalayim and brought to the Beis HaMikdash. They were done in the Beis HaMikdash proper. In other words, the people who were kneading the dough were kneading it in the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because it had Kedusha. If it had Kedusha, it had to be inside. So, for the Gemara, good, the people themselves are not the reason, but they're in a makam of reason. So the Kahanim will watch them. The Kahanim will ensure that it doesn't become chametz. So therefore, you can use poishrim, fil b'makam menachas, even if it's a non-kohen doing it, because since it's done in the Beis HaMikdash proper, the Kahanim will watch to ensure that it doesn't become chametz. Damamar belila ksher bizar, the mixing of the flour and the oil was kosher bizar. Chutz l'chemes azara psula, right? Except if it's done outside the azara, then it's possible. Lafuki l'sisa, the enibis reason. Lafuki l'sisa, that is not reason. V'lei b'makam's reason. And therefore, since l'sisa soaking it was not this reason or makam's reason, therefore we don't allow you to do it by what? So basically, all menachas, guys, was from whole wheat. Basically, all menachas was from whole wheat because we didn't take off the bran. U'maishlam minchas oimer, that we did allow the sisa, that we did allow to soak it. The Tanya, minchas oimer loisis and I saw, it's soibrim maisa. They went ahead and they soaked it and they brought it together. They put it together. And for Gemara, it's sibur shiny. Sibur is different. Says Rashi, first wide line, sibur shiny. Minchas oimer carbon sibahi. The minchas oimer that was born on Tesayin, Nisan, Tamata, the Chadash in the Medina, that was the minchas of the community. And therefore, since it was a carbon that's the key. Since it was a communal carbon, it was done through the auspices of Bezdin. Ksirasa, the cutting of it, the vihuva, and the singeing of it, shalah, ulasita, and the soaking of it, hakol bebezdin, ubis reason who. And it was done by his reason. And therefore, that's why the carbon was different than Stam Mincha, which was the carbon yachid, not the carbon of a sibur. Fascinating Gemara, very nice Gemara. Tanrabanan, Yachal Yaitza Adam Yidei Chabasei Bibikurim. We know starting on Shavuos, a person would bring from the 7 fruits of Eretz Yisrael. He'd bring bikurim. He'd bring it to the kohen, put it in a basket, give it to the kohen, and he would read the parshas of bikurim. Bikurim, guys, is a din of truma. It's called trumas yotcha. It's a din of truma. Okay. So now, let's say that can be bought from chita soira. Good. So can you make your matzahs from bikurim? Yachol yotzei yedei chavasa bikurim tamad loymar b'chol moshvei seichem toichlu matzos. Matzah necheles b'chol moshvei seichem yotzu bikurim shei nechal b'chol moshvei seichem el Yerushalayim the Rabbi Yossi Aglili. So listen, very interesting. Who eats bikurim? The kohen. It's one of Matnas Kahuna. He eats. So even though our Mishnah said a kohen can be yotza his chiyuv of matzah with either challah and or truma, he can't be yotza with bikurim. What's the difference? Because challah and truma can be eaten anywhere. Bikurim can only be eaten in Yerushalayim, and it says b'chol moshvei seichem tochlu matzos, and all moshvei seichem in all of your neighborhoods and all your places you reside, you should eat matzah. And since bikurim can't be eaten b'chol moshvei seichem, therefore what? Therefore you're not b'yotze chiyuv. Mashen king truma and ochala, which can be eaten b'chol moshvei seichem, that the kohen will be able to use. So it's fascinating. They're all matnas kahuna. It's all matnas kahuna, but be different. Hey, Benji.
What's the difference? Why do we give this answer by Meiser Shani, my son Shani, that he can't be eaten?
Okay, hang in there a second. Hang in there. So he's asking very good. Why would it be a kiva then? Why would he allow Meiser Shani? Meiser Shani has to be in Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Kiva has to argue on this, right? Okay, hang in there. Very good. Excellent. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva Omer, I'll tell you another reason why you can't use bikurim. I'll tell you another reason why you can't use bikurim. What's the reason? It says matzah u'marar. We make a hekesh, guys. We make a comparison between matzah and marar. Ma mara she'ena bikurim. Just like mara is not bikurim. Again, bikurim is only bought from, guys, the 7 fruits that ayin devarim ches. Right, the 7 fruits. Af matzah she'ena bikurim. So to matzah not bikurim. So since matzah can't be from mara, since bikurim can't be from mara, so bikurim matzah can't be from. So that lends to us to a problem, guys. Chita and sa'ira, right, are bikurim. So let's go the other way around and say they can't be matzah because they could be bikurim. Imam mara she'en b'minai bikurim. Just like mara, among the species of mara, there is no bikurim. Af matzah she'en b'minai bikurim. So to matzah, you can't use any of the 7 minim. And then I could go ahead. I won't be able to use wheat and barley even for regular challah. Because what? Because of bikurim, which would be a problem. Sheish marina bikurim. So because of that question, Tamalaymar, matzahs riba. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva says we have an extra riba of matzah, and that will include chita b'sa'ira. Now the question is, once you include chita b'sa'ira, so why don't you include pomegranate matzah, olive matzah, right? All the include grape matzah, include all the other things. It says more tamloy matzah. Matzahs riba, because it says matzahs often, you're being marba more matzahs, Rabbi Akiva, and therefore you're going to include chita soira despite the fact that it's bought from bikurim. Afila bikurim nami, all the other fruits, pomegranates, olives, anovim, figs, dates. All those other fruits also should be able to go ahead and be used for matzah if matzahs riba. So for the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva changed his mind. He changed his mind, and he's masking to Rabbi Yossi he's masking to the Rabbi Yossi Hagalili's pshat that you learn out from B'chol Moshvei Seichem, and then we're going to have Benji's kasha about Meiser Sheni. In other words, forget about the matzah mara comparison. The reason bikurim doesn't work is because you can't eat bikurim b'chol moshvei seichem. You can't eat it throughout Eretz Yisrael. You're limited to achila in Yerushalayim. So therefore, hada be Rabbi Akiva b'tanya. Yachal, I might think yatsa adam yidei chavasa b'bikurim. I might think a person is yatsa skiyav with bikurim, a bichiyav of matzah with bikurim. Hamad loymar b'chol moshvei seichem toichlu matzahs. Matzah necheles b'chol moshvei. matzahs that can be eaten in all of your neighborhoods. Yatsa bikurim, this exclude bikurim. That again, that was the limit of what of Rabbi Yosef Glili. Benji's question, guys. So then, Maisa Sheni, I should not be able to eat. Go back to the beginning of the daf. We had a machloikis between Rabbi Yosef Glili, lechem oni. Since you can't eat matzah be'aninus, you excluded Maisa Sheni. Good. Rabbi Akiva said no. Lechem oni, dvarim shonim, dvarim harbe. You can't eat matzah with yayin, shem, and dvash, but you could eat Maisa Sheni. Good. You could eat Maisa Sheni. Yes, that was Rabbi Akiva. So now, Yachal Shani Moitziach Maisa Sheni Hamad Leimer Matzos Riba. So matzos matzah will include Maisa Sheni Benji. Umarois l'Rabbis Maisa Sheni l'Hoitzi Bikurim. 1 second. Both of them have to be eaten in Yerushalayim. Why did you opt to exclude Bikurim and include Maisa Sheni? Since they're both eaten in Yerushalayim, you're playing favorites. You're saying, well, Maisa Sheni you could use for matzah, but Bikurim not. Why? Marbani Maisa Sheni sheyesh leheta b'chol ma'ishvais. There is a heicha timtza. There's a way Maisa Sheni can make it to all neighborhoods. When? Kid Rebbe Laza. Umoitziani bikurim she'en lem heta b'chol ma'ishvais. Okay. So guys, outside right now, we're learning b'chol ma'ishvais. In order to go ahead and make matzah, it has to be something that can be eaten in all neighborhoods. Bikurim can only be eaten in Yerushalayim. Therefore, Bikurim's out. I might think Maisa Sheni, Matzah Maisa Sheni is also out. Talmud Loy Matzahs Riba. Fred the Gemara, why are you including Maisa Sheni and excluding Bikurim? Because there's a Heicha Timsa where Maisa Sheni can be eaten outside Yerushalayim. If it becomes Tameh in Yerushalayim, like Rebbe Laza, you can be paid it. If it becomes Tameh, you can be paid it. Therefore, you can take it out. Bikurim you can never take out. Even if it becomes Tameh, you can't take it out. Maisa Sheni that could become Tameh, you could take it out. Therefore, it's more mistarbe to say it has a shaykhis to b'chol moshvos sechem and be included from the matzos than bikurim, which never ever makes it b'chol moshvos sechem. Therefore, I included the Maisa Sheni and excluded the bikurim. Where's the shita of Rebbe Laza? Let's see the shita. Minayin l'Maisa Sheni shenit mush poid the Maisa afilu Yerushalayim. How do you know Maisa Sheni that contracts tumah that can be poid even in Yerushalayim? Tamad Leimar. It says kiloi suchal seisai. Seisai really means you can't carry it. It's a play on words over here. It says, if let's say you have too much food, and you're not able to carry it to Yerushalayim. So the eitzah is take the food, take the kedusha of Maisa Sheni on the food, and go ahead and put it on coins. And coins are easy transferable, and you transfer them up. But we're having a chasidish b'shat. We're saying seisai does not mean carry. We're saying seisai means eating. Why did we say yesterday's parsha? It says, and that what does masais mean there? It meant food. They carried food away from Yosef. Good. So you see, you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it? Because it's tamei. Okay, now, so very good. So he says that's why we include Maisa. Now, we didn't mention Rabbi Akiva at all, did we? At all. But we do know one thing. The Tana of this brisa permits the achila of Maisa Sheni because of making a matzah out of Maisa Sheni because it says matzahs. Correct, guys? We don't know any name over here, but we do know one thing. We excluded Bikurim, linya matzah, and we included Maisa Sheni, linya matzah. Go back to the beginning of the daf. Who's the Tana who said you could eat Maisa Sheni? Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Yosef Glili, right? So very geschmack. Man shamalei dama Maisa Sheni, nafik bay that you can be yotza matzah with Maisa Sheni. Rabbi Akiva, the kamamaya leila bikurim b'mekol moshe seichem shmamina hadabei. Okay, we began the Gemara, guys. Watch. We said one thing: bikurim not out. What's the reason? B'chol moshe seichem or matzah mara. Good. Matzah mara. B'chol moshe seichem was Rabbi Yossi. Matzah mara was Rabbi Akiva. We asked the question. If it's going to go ahead and exclude anything from Mara, from Bikurim, then you should be able to go ahead and make matzah out of Chita v'Sa'ira because they're included in Bikurim. Said the Gemara, we have matzah, sriba. Fred the Gemara, if that's the case, include all the bikurim. Let's get date matzah, honey matzah, fig matzah. So the Gemara says, forget about that. In other words, forget about that matzah mara hekesh. Get it off. Rabbi Kiva had charata, and he's going to learn the same source as Rabbi Yossi Galili. Good. We now bring a brisa. We don't mention any names, but we know two things in the brisa. The limud is called b'chol ma'ishvei seichem. You can't eat bikurim because why? Because you can't eat bikurim in all your neighborhoods. But we will include ma'aser sheni because why? Because you can be paid the ma'aser sheni when it comes to Amei. So who is the one who said you can go ahead and ma'aser sheni? Rabbi Kiva. And what's the limud we're having in this brisa? B'chol ma'ishvei seichem. So we have a raya that Rabbi Akiva changed his mind. He dropped the matzah mara hekesh and he went along with the limud of b'chol ma'ashvei seichem of Rabbi Yossi Galili. And now we don't have a problem of Kita B'Sayra. Very good. So it comes out, Maisa Sheni does work, according to Rabbi Akiva, according to Rabbi Yossi Galili not, and Maisa Bikurim does not work. Truma does work. Truma does work. So it's very interesting, like you have to see the different things. Bikurim Chala does work, Bikurim doesn't work, Truma does work, because B'chol ma'ashvei seichem, that limud's a limud. Okay, now, Rabbi Yossi Galili typically milechem oini, mishel oichel b'oini yatzeh sheinachal ela b'simcha. Very geschmack. Fellas, what did Rabbi Yossi Galili say? Why can't you eat ma'aser sheni? Because you can't eat a baninas, good? So why do you need a special limud b'chol ma'ashvei seichem for bikurim? Bikurim also can't be eaten baninas. Bikurim also you have to be happy. So why do you need a new limud for bikurim? The same limud that he used to exclude ma'aser sheni, he could use to exclude bikurim. Lechem oini, the lechem that what you can't eat when you're in onain, when you're in the first before the kfura, because you have to be besimcha. So says the Gemara, if that lechem oinis you can't eat baninas, and Rabbi Yossi Galili applied it to ma'aser sheni, let him apply it to bikurim as well. And why would you need the limud of b'chol ma'ashvei seichem? Why would you need that limud? L'chayr, you can exclude bikurim from there. It's a gewaldige kasha. And for the Gemara, Savalak Rabbi Shimon, he also like Rabbi Shimon, the Tanya, bikurim asurim la'onein, Rabbi Shimon mata. Rabbi Yossi Galili holds like Rabbi Shimon, that a kohen who's an onein could eat bikurim, therefore he needed the limud of b'chol ma'ashvei seichem to exclude matzah as opposed to lechemoni. My time in the Rabbanan that says it's asa, dichsiv leisucha lecha b'sharecha, v'amamar shumas yadcha ele bikurim. The ishkis bikurim lemaisa. We make a hekesh between bikurim and maisa. Ma maisa asa la'onein, just like maisa is asa to an onein, af bikurim asa la'onein. And Rav Shimon says it's mutta. Rav Shimon truma karina, and we call bikurim truma yadcha. Kitruma, ma truma muteres la'onein, just like truma is permitted for an onein. Good. So, guys, just a side question. Rabbi Yossi Galili, who learned out bikurim b'chol ma'ashvei seichem, why doesn't he learn out from the same source he had from ma'aser sheni, which was aninis? It's because Rabbi Yossi Galili holds like Rav Shimon that bikurim is mutar ba'onein because he makes a hekesh to truma, and truma is mutar ba'onein. Rav Shimon nehi the hekesh the hekesha less le simcha, right? It says that you should be happy. So good. In other words, good. He makes an hekesh to truma, but it says that what the bikurim have to be besimcha. So he goes, no, who is man simcha who does? That's that you bring bikurim guys into this man of simcha. Ditnan me'atzeres bi'anachag from Shavuos until Sukkos, maybe v'koyrei. You bring bikurim and you read the parsha of Arami David Avi. That's the maximum simcha. Me'achag v'at Chanukah, the chag until Chanukah, the simcha is over because you already harvested all your crop. So maybe you bring it the ena koyrei, and you don't go ahead and you don't read it. So therefore, even though it's a simcha, the zman simcha is when you should bring bikurim. Tanrabanan lechemoni prat lechaloit ula shisha, prat of scalded flour and a shisha flour. I'm not exactly sure. We're trying to figure out what a shisha flour is. I think it's like a big loaf, a big challah, a big. It's mashma from here, Gemara, like the Sfardim challah. It's mashma. Sfardim matzah has substance to it. It's mashma from the Gemara that they were able to make matzah with substance, not this paper thin that we make. But anyway, prat lechalu l'shisha. Yachol, I might think lo yotza adim nechavasai ela bepas hadra. I might think you only yotza with pas hadra is the pas kiba. It's whole wheat. It's. I might think you only yotza with whole wheat. You can't use flour that had been cleansed. Matzah riba. Right? I feel matzah shloima. Even Shlomo was noted for having a very, very luxurious lifestyle. So therefore, even his matzah you'd be yotza with. And came out time lechem oini. So why does it say lechem oini? Prat lechaloy u'lashisha. We won't go ahead and scalded flour not and a large loaf of matzah not. Umay mashma dehaya shisha lishna chashivusa. Having a shisha is lashon of chashivus. Again, it was speaking about a big challah. The chesiv, it says by David HaMelech, by Yechalik l'chol and David gave portions to the whole nation. L'cholam on Yisrael. It's like the stimulus package. He went ahead. He gave ish vad isha. He gave from man to woman. Leish chales lechem achas, one challah. The eshbar echad and one eshbar vashisha achas. So I don't know if this would go very big in the stimulus package. I'm going to give you. So for Omar Rav Chanan Baraba, eshbar. What's an eshbar echad? It's echad mishisha b'par. It's 1/6 of a par. Wow, you're getting 1/6 of a par. A shisha is echad mishisha eifa, and a shisha is a challah made from 1/6 of an eifa. Upligi the Shmuel, the Amar Shmuel, a shisha in fact is not a measurement of flour. It's garba the chamra. It's a jug of wine. The chsiv for ayave a shisha anovim. So you see, a shisha is considered anovim. I thank you all for listening.